Hello and welcome to today's episode of Immersion's Deep Dive podcast. I'm Laila.
I'm McKenna, and today we're joined with a brand new face. We have Nyla. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, my name is Nyla, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm just excited to be here.
Yes. Amazing. So we can get right into our topic today. Laila.
All right, for today's episode, we've decided to discuss something that has deeply altered our lives since 2020. COVID. Because of COVID, our lives and normal routine shifted greatly, so we thought it would be interesting to discuss how it personally affected us. Also, when challenging things happen, it can cause changes in faith and beliefs and how it affected our faith. So we wanted to discuss COVID and its impact on our beliefs.
And as we talk about difficult times, it's important to know what the Bible says about God's presence during difficult times. Today's scripture comes from Psalm 46, verses 1 through 3, which state, God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth may give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. So we can get straight into our discussion. Right. Do you guys remember how you personally felt when COVID first started?
Yes, it was middle school. And it was like a blur. Like, I was more shocked than anything because it was like just on the news out of nowhere. And I was like, COVID? Like, oh, okay, it's gonna stay in China.
Yeah.
And, it just traveled to the United States. And I'm like, wow. So I'm like, maybe it won't, affect like our lives. It'll just be here. Kind of like the flu maybe a little bit. Maybe like less affected than the flu actually. But then it turned into this big old thing. And
I just don't think I ever thought that school was gonna close. That's something that I thought the last thing was gonna happen. Like, I remember when it first started, and like I said, I didn't know that it was actually gonna come here. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I don't know if it'll really affect anything. And then when school closed, I was like, wait, this might actually be really serious. My family, when COVID, when we went into lockdown, they took it so serious. Like, we stocked up on food and we bought all the supplies. We went into serious lockdown. And so that's when I started getting a little more, concerned and anxious about it. But before that, I just didn't know really what was going to happen.
Yeah, when it first started, really happening in 2020, we were freshman year, so we were just getting used to high school and things like that. We were like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then I hear this news in China. I heard the story with the bat, and these people in China are dying from COVID. COVID-19 from what we first heard. And then I thought, well, yeah, it's gonna stay in China. But then the first case in America I saw was in a retirement home in Ohio or Nebraska or something. And I was like, oh no, this is about to be bad, isn't it? So when schools first started shutting down, I didn't think it would originally, but I thought it was gonna be this little 2 weeks, we're gonna hunker down, it'll be fine, and then we'll be back to normal in a month or whatever. But then, yeah.
And to follow up on the high school part, because I was in 8th grade when it all first happened. And, I was excited, first year of high school, a freshman. And so when school shut down, the whole year, I was online. So I had no, freshman, experience, first year of high school, getting, to know new people, new experience. I was online, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember I kind of wanted those 2 weeks off of school. I was thinking it would be great. But then when it started getting longer and longer, that was our freshman year. So we only had one half of our freshman year. And then from then, I did online school for all of sophomore year. So I never had any sophomore in person. And then I only had half of it in person. So I think that actually really changed my schedule also because I just become adapted to the pace of a high school. Right. And then you have to go online and you're like, what do I do with my time now? And I think that was the biggest challenge for me during that time.
Yeah, definitely. When COVID started really ramping up for the year for 2020, I was starting to worry about my sophomore year because I had just gotten used to being in high school, being used to the routine, things like that. And I was wondering if I was going to crash and burn during sophomore year because we're going to be online, and motivation for me tends to go way down when I'm not being held accountable in person. Yeah. So it was kind of hard,
Well, we could go straight into another question from this. Did COVID affect your academic life or your school?
It didn't necessarily affect my grades because as an incoming freshman, I was not gonna lie, it kind of helps me with maintaining my GPA. Mm-hmm. So it kind of I don't know how to explain this. It kind of set the bar for like my GPA. And some of my friends, you know, they had, you know, they were like discouraged, unmotivated. But I took this opportunity as like to be like take it as like in a positive way. Like, okay, I have my computer. I have like extra time to study. I have extra time to do my work, to actually like
prepare.
Prepare.
Yeah. I think, like you said, freshman year, routine. And I had come from a charter school, so I was at like a really small school. And then I switched to a public high school where it's like a lot bigger and it's a completely different routine. And then that cut off. But like I really enjoyed online school. I used it, like, I was really motivated. I was really organized. I had like a little routine for my house. But what like really affected me was going back junior year. That was what really scared me, because I only had half a semester of high school, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how I was going to be able to like manage my classes. And then also junior year is such like a high rigor year, like you have such difficult classes, and so I didn't know how that was going to affect me. But I really don't think it caused me to like slip or anyway, or like I maintained my grades during online school.
I think I'm pretty different in the way that I need a separation between like home life and school life, and being at home all the time doing school and resting in the same place kind of really messed me up like mentally.
I agree with that one too.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree with that one too. Like, because I did like lay in the bed when we were on Zoom calls. Like, I'm gonna be honest, yeah, I did like lay in the bed. But then like, okay, like to a certain point where like I know I have to like, because like freshman year is like the start year up to like, you know, like how you do for the rest of your high school years. So I kind of like I had to like take that into like counter of like I had to like stay on top of it. But it was also challenging, like, because the Zoom calls are boring sometimes. They're very unmotivated. You know, we had to like keep our camera on sometimes. You know, people like turn them off. But yeah, just to maintain it.
When you're saying like about your working in the same space as you sleep, I couldn't sleep anymore because I was like, my brain was just associating my room with school. So I had to separate my room. I could not do school in my room anymore. Like I couldn't do it in the bed, especially. Like I had to move out of my room. So I would just like work in different areas of my house, and I would sit outside on the deck or like go in my brother's old room, and I would just do my school in there because I could not relax in my room anymore because I associated it with school and like taking tests and doing homework, so I couldn't do it. But I think that was probably, I just remembered that was probably the biggest challenge for me academically. But do you guys think COVID created any like social challenges for you? And if so, what challenges do you think it had?
I talked to no one for like the first month of COVID, and especially like the beginning of sophomore year doing online school and all that. But I think partially that was my fault because I usually thrive my relationships off of, you know, seeing people in person. And while I do text people sometimes, it's not like I'm not always consistent on that. So it kind of really affected me because I couldn't see people anymore and talk to them. So it just kind of was hard for me.
I think a lot of my friendships were pretty new at the time because freshman year I only had been with these people for one semester. So then we went online. I think the biggest challenge was that I didn't maintain a lot of I didn't follow up and check on people a lot, and so then a lot of my friendships kind of drifted apart. And this year, for some reason, I've actually become friends with a lot of my freshman year friends again because we've just been able to talk again. But that was probably like maintaining friendships. And then also when we were allowed to like go back out, I was a little anxious about being back out and like being around people a lot, and then just remembering how to like socialize. I don't know, that was a challenge for me, like because I've always been very like extroverted, so it was like hard for me to get back to that place that I was.
So for me, I actually didn't have a poor social life. Me and my friends, we still communicated like almost every day, like just like, you know, like there's FaceTime, so like we FaceTimed each other throughout the day. I normally have like a tight friend group. It's not like where, like, I don't know, like we all like stayed like close knit together. And then I was also on the cheer team freshman year. So like after school, you know, like some of my friends were like in cheer. So I was able to like, you know, see them like throughout, you know, like after school, like at cheer practice. So it wasn't more of like, my personality is also more of like introverted and extroverted, I can say, because, I am more of like a person that like shares my personality with people that like I trust most, you know? Yeah. And so it was just so it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad for me, but it did play a part. But like I did get like kind of like not myself a little bit, but overall it wasn't bad.
I think also COVID, like in general, I feel like going back to school, you could see a difference in how people acted like before and after COVID.
Yeah.
I think that's just like you still see it now. I think it's really interesting to see. Okay, how did COVID affect your mental health?
Up and down roller coaster. I think that there were that many ups and downs because there were a lot of positives to being inside a lot and getting to like really know yourself during COVID, but also there were a lot of times where I felt really, really lonely and really, really stressed because there's this disease that could like kill you technically, but mentally it was up and down for me. I just don't know.
Yeah, mentally, I would say, you know, I felt drained sometimes, you know, just throughout, like, just the whole situation, like COVID, the not being not being able to like be like involved in school and to actually like learn like how you really want to. So like that took a part of like, like, you know, like just being like lazier than what I was like in school while I was in school. So yeah, it was kind of draining. But then again, you know, I still had like my friends to come to and to talk to them and just kind of like, cause like we all related, like we were all going through the same thing. So just being able to like just relate and talk to them about how like they're feeling and how I'm feeling.
I would say up and down, as Laila said. I just remember this, but like I remember COVID was also during like the entire social justice, like the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor part. And so that part was also like, so I feel like it was very stressful because one, I think you're watching all this stuff and then you don't really know what you could do because you're inside your house and there's not much you could do. And then two, I'm watching all of my peers from school and everybody's posting all this stuff and you're seeing like who has this perspective and who has this perspective. And that was just really interesting for me to see, like, I don't know, that made me, it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And so that whole time was very stressful and I think very isolating. And then there was also some good times because I was spending so much time with my family. Like I hadn't spent that much time with both my brothers, they're both in college. I hadn't spent that much time with them since before they both left for college. And so that was like a good time. But like I think, yeah, it was very, depending on like the day, what was going on in the country and the world. And then also like the election, that was also during COVID. So like there's so much stuff that was happening in this year and we're all isolated in our houses and you can't like, there's nothing you can do.
It definitely has some different like aspects to it because like during school you actually spend more time with like your classmates and your peers, where COVID time you spend more of like people that's in your household. That was more of like a different
it's just you have to get like adjusted.
Adjusted.
It's definitely changed.
But do you guys think it's normal to question faith in difficult times? And I say yes.
Yes, definitely.
Go ahead.
It definitely challenged me, especially during COVID, because it kept begging the question to me, like, why does God let bad things happen to so many good people? And it really challenged me in that way, and I had to really work through that over the course of all 2 years where we were like stuck at home.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna say. You question, there's so many bad things that are happening in the world, people are dying and sick. It's like, how can this happen? You know, I don't know, that was the biggest thing that I kept questioning, was like, how can these things happen and how is God allowing this to happen? But
I agree with you guys were saying, because it's kind of like we know God is here for us, but in our mind as human beings, we don't really we don't see God, and like sometimes it's hard for us to to feel God and like to see if like he's really like there. So I'm back to the question, like, is God like why? The question of why of all these things like are happening like to us and to like anybody in the world, and just the question of why. And like it's hard to have faith when so many negative and bad things are just happening around you. So it definitely played a part into like hell.
And that goes straight into our next question. How did COVID affect your personal faith?
I think it really strengthened my faith by seeing other people's relationship with their faith go different ways during COVID, because, not to like call anyone out or anything, but I think I saw a lot of people during COVID be like, I'm not going to take any precautions because the Lord's going to protect me. And I was like, well, he will protect you, but there are also resources that he gave you to help you protect yourself. He protects you in that way. And I think working through that, seeing other people experience God in the way that I don't, helped me figure things out for myself.
Yeah. And I think also I spent so much time alone, I had so much more time to dedicate to building my relationship with God, and that's when I really started reading my Bible and like learning about prayer and worship, and so that really changed my relationship with God, and I think that my faith became completely different. Like I became a new Christian because of COVID, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. My grandpa is really big on like faith, so like I would like call him throughout the day just like to talk to him, and we'll talk about like faith, because like he knows I'm a teenager going through these times, so like he'll like talk to me, we'll read scriptures. So I feel like my relationship with my grandpa and God really brought me together in the COVID time.
Yeah. And then also like before COVID, I feel like I was also like younger, but like I was the person who I would just come to church on Sundays and like that would be it with me with God, and like I would Bible study or life groups. Like I never spent time alone learning about God or learning about the Bible. And so when you don't, I mean there was online church, but when you don't have a church to go to every Sunday, like you have to, if you want to grow as a Christian, you have to take that into your hands. And so that was something that I had to learn, and I had to learn the importance of doing.
Yeah. I think also with my faith as a Christian, I had to treat, God and learning about him like I treat school, like studying it every day, considering it, studying. It's a process. It was a process for me, and I think now that I've gotten to a certain routine in implementing it into my everyday life, I think I'm stronger for it.
Yes. So, what can we take from this discussion? I really like this. I think we
I like it too. I really did.
So, what do you guys think was like our main points that we could talk about?
COVID was definitely hard. It affected us in a lot of ways.
I'd say even though it feels weird sometimes, it's normal to question your faith. It's something challenging is posing your life right now.
Yeah, the discussion on faith, I feel like we all had like different situations on our faith and like on how that helped us. So I like that part where we talked about that. And then I also like the part where like, how'd you guys like your feelings on how like everything was with COVID?
I think I like how we established that it's okay to like question things about our faith, and because that's the first step on the road to learning and growing in our faith.
Yeah, and I agree with what you were saying about it's okay to not be sure and to not be like all like 100 about like to not be like 100% in your faith. Like it's okay to have like doubts. It's okay to
you don't have to have
it's okay to be unsure.
Yeah,
it's okay to be unsure, and just like building your relationship with God can also help you to not be unsure and to help you, just get through what you're going through.
Yeah. Well, guys, this was a really good discussion. Thank you for joining us, Nyla. You have to be another episode.
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, I'm McKenna.
I'm Laila.
And I'm Nyla.
And thank you for joining us for the Deep Dive Podcast.
Goodbye.
Bye.